Wow. I don't know what happened. I think Instagram just shut down by itself. So I think that Instagram just shut down by itself. So we have to start all over again. So we apologize for that. Even in broadcasting, we experience things like this. So I believe you all understand. So given what Jonathan has said over time, it's something that he's passionate about, something that he had wanted to do at age 11. I didn't want to be a media person. I'd always wanted to be a military woman. But you know, my mom, she goes like, not in this house. But then here we are, over time, and we're here, still doing the media work. Hey. So, at this basic thing that I was able to pick was, this is what Jonathan has always wanted to do. He did not mind the fact that they'll send him to go and buy granules. They'll send him. I did remember somebody raising this issue in one of the Instagram posts, that they will send people for internship, and the next thing, you send them to go and buy food, you send them to buy granules and all manner of things. Yes, military. My mom wanted, I'd always wanted to go to NDA, but she said not in this house. All our children, friends' children were going to the university, and you know. And I said, okay, let me be a lawyer. At that time, you need a first degree before you can even read law. And I calculated the years. 8 years to become a lawyer. Mba. I said, okay, let me do mass communication. And then they took me to Ilorin, University of Ilorin. And I looked through the premises. I said, no way. But somehow, by the time I started reading, I entered the university, my first degree. By the time I was in 300 level, I knew what I wanted. I knew media was it for me, and which made me also join the press club of Union of Campus Journalists in UI. Then the rest is history. It wasn't bed of roses, but here we are today. Yeah, I want me to tell you where that's what it is. I'm sure the network is horrible at the Lagos end there. So while we wait for Jonathan to join, two things came up. He was interested in the media and is passionate about it. My question then is interest and passion enough to make one an outstanding broadcaster? I really want him to say this, to tell us if interest and passion. So that. Okay, so welcome back. This is crazy. Crazy.
You know that this cannot be.
Okay, so welcome back.
This cannot be a Lagos network problem.
No, Instagram actually shut down by itself, so it's not a network problem. I think it's from Instagram. Like two things stood out when you were explaining, giving us the background information, interest and passion. And I asked before you joined, is interest and passion enough to be an outstanding broadcaster?
You know, many of these things, quite frankly, different doors, different routes for people to get in. And I don't know if I really qualify to define what anyone needs, but I'll just say my own experience and what has kept me going. I would say, yes, I had passion. Yes, I had interest. I can always remember vividly to the days sitting down in primary school, and all I was saying to myself I wanted to be was a journalist. Like any kid, I wanted to do many other things. I mean, I fumbled and tried things like music. I tried being a rapper. I was a reggae artist. I did all of those things. But I think there was always interest and passion, which is key as something you need to start. Looking back a couple of years down the line, I would say interest and passion are like love when you need to get into a marriage. It's very important to have love. When it's founded on love, there will be other things that will come along the way. That would be like wind, that would be like tornadoes coming and trying to sweep you. But because you have interest and passion, the hungry days, you will still stay there. I remember days when I used to walk.
The hungry days.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be hungry for food, but your hunger for that profession would trounce your hunger for food. And I guess you'd be able to tell yourself, man shall not live by bread alone under this circumstance, and you will move on. It's never easy, but it does happen. But you need much more. You need much more than interest and passion, in my opinion. I think you need tenacity, you need discipline, you need education, you need knowledge, and you need, most importantly, you need a sense of purpose. All of this have to form a big picture. Because soon enough, 1 year will become 2 years. 2 years will become 3 years. And interest can go down. Because sometimes you feel discouraged. Sometimes you feel, this wasn't what I signed up for. But I think if you just stay passionate, if you look at that person you fell in love with 30 years ago, you would not let the events of today easily shake you. You would always say, okay, one of my go-to places is I go back to how I fell in love with this. I fell in love with radio. It hasn't changed. I love it. I love it more today than I loved it more yesterday.
But you said a lot of things: knowledge, education, sense of purpose. But what was strong for me, you said the hungry days. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, when you take a look at what's obtained in the industry right now, many people believe that it shouldn't just be about passion and interest. They want to make money. You understand? They want to be rich. Can media make you a rich woman or man? Can it make you rich? Can you make some? Because that's what the younger generation wants to hear. How much are you being paid? $1 million, 300,000, 500,000? And if you're going to take a look, which organization will want to pay that kind of? Yes, some do pay. Depends on what comes in for them. But then, is it enough? Is this something one can sit back and say this profession has a second-hand value that can go home with?
Quite frankly, many people would argue, this is never a one-size-fits-all, but many people would say there are actually never any wealthy employee. For as long as you're an employee, no matter how much you earn, you are really never super wealthy because you are only a fraction, you are only representative of a fraction of this commonwealth. One thing I can say is that doing whatever you do and excelling well at it, irrespective of the profession, is going to make you comfortable at some point in your journey if you keep getting better at it and if you stay consistent at it. It is the same with any profession. A young doctor it's not common for a young doctor to be very rich. But an older doctor with years of experience, years of increasing and bettering practice is most likely going to be sought for much more. And that will make them earn much more money. The same thing for an engineer. You would need to go through the ropes. There are a few people who would get into exceptionally very wealthy workplaces, but the media the world over is not famous. It's like teaching. It's not famous for being a place where people break the bank. However, a lot of people also become wealthy while at it. I mean, there are examples of people who have become wealthy while at it, but what has made them wealthy is how they have stood out, how much effort they have put in, how much knowledge they have garnered, how much they have been distinctive. It is arguable that a fellow called Ryan Seacrest, for instance, is always counted to be one of the most wealthy people on radio and in media. who work in media, not just those who own media. Because there are those who work and those who own. But he works in media, even though he owns a few properties. But up till today, years after, he's still your traditional radio show host. He hosts a radio show in the morning in Los Angeles. But Ryan, if you see Ryan's schedule, from when Ryan wakes up in the morning until when he goes to sleep, and he sleeps only a few hours, his day is packed full of activities. And he cannot achieve, he isn't disciplined. So you need actually more of discipline to make you rich, not where you work. You need more of a sense of purpose to make you rich, not where you work. Where you work gives you, maybe at best, an opportunity to pursue your dreams. To pursue your dreams and express yourself. And like I always tell my colleagues, I always say, you know, it's like playing football. Every day you go on air, it's an opportunity to showcase your talent. You never know who the scout is, who is looking out for the next best talent. Just putting your best performance. Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Sense of purpose and the efforts you've put in makes you become rich in the profession. Let's take a look at the media industry. I mean, relatively, you've spent some good years, good number of years in the profession. How do you think we are fared?
I think now, we in this case, I suspect would be Nigeria, you mean, most likely, right? Like broadcasting in Nigeria.
Nigeria, the media industry in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I would say, just like the nation itself, there is so much more that we could do. And there's this little that we have done, which means there is a road, especially in the time we've been running. So I'll give you an example and try to put like an round peg, like an egg for an egg, oranges for oranges. South Africa, just like Nigeria, South Africa returned, it became a democratic nation sometime in the early 90s. We became a democratic nation in the late 90s. So say roughly put about 8 years difference. However, when you compare broadcasting in the two countries, there are a lot of differences. And part of the areas that I would like to think that we haven't fared so well is there is a lack of contemporary and relevant knowledge of the business amongst players. We have what I always mainly like pretenders, people who think simply because you have been in the business for several years, it means you know it. No, it's not just the years that count. It's, like they say, it's not the years of being in the profession that count, but the profession in the years. That it sounds confusing, but the truth is, years are nothing but number. It is what you do in those years. It is the knowledge you gain. I think in Nigeria, we need to improve in knowledge gathering, in knowledge use. I'll give you an example, Lola. We have, so who are in broadcasting, but they've never taken a look at the broadcast code. They've never looked at the Nigerian broadcasting code. And I mean, I'm like saying, show me a lawyer who has never looked at, who doesn't know the Constitution. So it starts from...
NBC is watching you.
Well, I mean, I'll try and stay on the straight and narrow path. But what I mean is that, I mean, when you have colleagues who don't think it is necessary to read the foundation of why they are even doing the business they are in, there's a problem. Then we haven't fared well also in terms of reproducing the quality of Generation Next. And maybe it's because as a people, we are never particular about who comes after us. I mean, with good credit to you, I'd say you've been fundamental in trying to
succession plan.
Yes, and I know you've always reached out to me to talk about, like, hey, before you started the Young Broadcasters Award and a few other things, you're always passionate about we must just be passionate about the next people. Up till now, after all of this years, I still try to find time to spend time with every new broadcaster that joins my team. It's not because I have the time, but it's because I believe in the fact that the quality of whoever is going to get on my microphone, that quality has got to be one that can stand the test of time. Because I'm really tired with the fact that we have colleagues that are preaching what they don't even understand. So I'll say we have, and from the professional standpoint, we haven't fed as much as we have capacity to. Then as a business, it's also a shame. Unfortunately, commercial broadcasting is a product of the economy. If the economy is doing well, commercial broadcasting will do well. Our economy has been, for the most part, yes, we always say it's the biggest economy in Africa, but I grew up hearing a proverb that they say the dog says, if it is true that there's a party in our house, we would see food on the floor. Don't keep telling me there's party in our house, and then we are not seeing food spilling all over the floor. That means there is no surplus. We may be a big economy, but we are not an economy that other sectors are able to tap into. To get into who created that situation is a story for another day. Then the last segment of this that I'm going to say as to how we are fared is out.
No, I didn't get that.
Or are we benchmarking ourselves against where our colleagues in the industry around the world are today? The answer to that, I think, is for all of us to see individually.
Quite interesting. Lack of contemporary and relevant knowledge, with introduction of Generation Next succession plan.
I can barely hear you.
I'm going to take you on the introducing of, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to hear you, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so you raised something about reintroducing the Generation Next, like creating a kind of succession plan. Mm-hmm. How ready do you think this Generation Next are to take on responsibilities? That's one. Two, as a manager, as a boss yourself, what are those things you look out for when you want to hand responsibilities to your staff? Very serious responsibility that you can go to bed knowing that they are in charge. What are those things you look at? And how ready are they to take on this responsibility?
You know, there would always be a generation.
From your experience.
There would always be a generational gap. And quite frankly, it is part of the fundamental duties of the leading generation to always see and remember that it's like, I'll use the word kids, not referring to kids as kids, but when you look, it's like a parent and their children. Your children always have what they want, but you have also been specially placed in a position to guide them so that they understand that it's not necessary that what they want is always going to be what is good for them, at least when you are still the person with the responsibility to guide and guard them. I think for me, I look at it through the lens that our younger broadcasters, we're exceptionally lucky to have them because they force us to think in so many directions. They give us new perspective. There are so many ideas that I've only been able to come up with because I listen to a lot of things coming from our younger colleagues. However, you need to understand the millennial. You need to understand what motivates the millennial. We are totally different generations, and that's what a generation gap is. I think together, nobody can do it alone. If we left them on their own, they can't find their way. If we use these measures from our time to measure what we want from them, we will consistently be displeased. I've had to learn a lot. In fact, this year in particular, I learned a lot about how to deal and work with millennials. They have certain characteristic traits that many people would label them, like they feel entitled. But the truth is they feel entitled mostly because they are growing up in a world where freedom of expression is probably way more than it was many years ago. They would say they feel lazy, but they feel lazy maybe because older people who have raised them haven't made them to see the diligence they need to put into hard work. So, I mean, it's a tough time to manage younger people, but it's also an interesting time.
It is. Would you care to share some of those things you learned over time? I mean, this year alone from the millennials.
I mean, so I learned, if I put it in summary, there was a time that with my colleagues, they
Yeah.
were asking for certain things. They were asking for certain things in the workplace. And it wasn't that, for instance, I didn't think they were things they didn't need, but I didn't think they were things that mattered so much like that. And I realized that while I understood that those things were important, and I thought, okay, look, I think these things, we need to do these things for you first, more than these other things. But then I now realized that, look, even more than, for instance, even more than their salary, they wanted certain basic things. Say, for instance, maybe the condition of a certain part of the office looking in a certain way. They would prefer for that to be priority more than, say, salary. I mean, it can sound funny, but I now learned, the lesson I learned in that is to always try to hear the complaint and see it from the mind of the complainant, as against thinking that, look, I mean, I've managed people all this time. I know that, like, it's not going to get me. I realized, and I was reminded that it's not going to get me anywhere. So it's now a question of what is important to you, according to you, and let me see how much of the opportunity I have that I can use to deal with it like that. It's a tough one, but we are all in the same ship, so we have to accommodate each other.
It's the reality of life. Yes, sadly, that's the reality. Okay, one more question before I take some questions from our followers. COVID-19 caught media unprepared, especially in Nigeria, and this has led to many changes. And it also seemed to have opened new vista, if you ask me. So post-COVID, what should media be doing?
Well, I mean, I do not think that COVID-19 ought to have caught us unprepared, at least for the things that are within our own sphere of control. One of the things I'd say is from a technologically ready point of view, I think I was very fortunate with my colleagues. Once we saw the signs, we rallied together and we tried to put a lot of things in place, and it was reasonably seamless for us to be able to broadcast from home in the very early days while we observed things, and to see how we're going to be able to now start now making it on the go. Like they say, fake it till you make it. We're just like now trying to say, okay, we'll test this and test this and test this. But that's technology. There's way more than technology that our business deals with. There's the economics of it. Unfortunately for us, the economics of it is bedeviled in a lot of things. Corruption is one of the major things that deals with it. I can tell you for a fact that there's no broadcast station in this country that charges the true cost of the commercial activity on its platform. All of us, we are charging way less. Actually, when you do the economics of it, you realize that what we build is in itself part of the problem we have. But you see, we're billing what we build not because we also, and we don't like money, not because we don't want to make more money. It's that thing I said about the economy being able to fund and finance your costs in itself. Now, it caught us and dealt us a big blow because I think we have been forced to reasonably be unidirectional in terms of our revenue streams. To a large extent, the bulk of our revenue is traditional media revenue. We have to depend on commercial broadcasting, adverts to coming. There are non-traditional revenue streams, which a lot of media organizations have been trying to do, like to invest more in doing events. But you see, for you to do events are a product of so many other things. The economy needs to be sound for people to spend extra money for leisure. You need to employ or hire vendors to help you. I mean, you'll be shocked, but to do one top quality event, sometimes you'd spend as much as $500 million if you want it to be like the gold standard that you see everywhere around the world. Where does that kind of money come from? It has to come from the economy. So by the time all the media agencies were directed to stop spending, first of all, it dealt us the most massive uppercut. I know stations that got as much as 80% loss in revenue instantly in the onset of the lockdown. And because everybody is studying the situation and trying to figure what to do, people are slow, people are not quick in playing, in spending. Unfortunately, until we win ourselves of one revenue stream, it will be difficult. Until the corruption that exists even within that one revenue stream is dealt with. Because when you make 10 naira, or when you sell for 10 naira, if you are lucky, you would get 4 naira come to you from that money. It's not a sustainable way to do business. Nobody does business and gives away 60% or 50%. It means fundamentally you were even billing wrong. If you can survive on that money, it means you were billing a wrong amount, because you don't give discounts. At best would be like 20%. It's only in super high street shopping that you can get 50% discount, because so many factors are considered in selling at that rate. But for our kind of business, anything above 20% is asking for trouble. So I think those were the reasons why we were caught unawares in that sense, because the truth is we do not have enough insulation, and that's what all of us in the industry must come together. I'm so very happy that in the most recent amendments being done, or addition that has been done to the broadcasting code, for the first time in the history of broadcasting in Nigeria, there is a decisive measure that the NBC has even thought about, to say, you know what, if you owe our licensees money, we would be able to step in. If they report, we'll be able to step in and we would blacklist you, and we would demand from the licensees not to air commercials from you. For me, for once, it's a breath of fresh air. The implementation of it, let's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope.
So apart from having NBC intervene in the recovery of all this outstanding from the advertising agencies, and then maybe events, are there other areas media should actually be looking at to be able to sustain itself, given all of this?
I mean, to a large extent, I think media has got to think, the first rule is, all of us in media, we have to take off our old hats and think like without restrictions. We have part of how you raise money in today's world has to start changing, where we must start to collaborate with technology companies. We have to invest in R&D, in research and development in the field of technology. If the technology guys are coming into media, why can't media guys go into technology? Apple was never thought about as a media company. Apple had always been a technology company. But today, Apple is hugely a media company. It owns a radio station. It owns a music streaming platform. It owns a television platform. I mean, it is daily, its revenue is being projected to come more from media in many years to come from now than from technology. So we have to think, how do we get some of this technology money? There's the digital opportunities that are opening up. A lot of people are now beginning to mainstream. A lot of outfits now are beginning to say, oh, we are seeing small money coming from Google Ads. Even though it's still advertising money,
True.
But this is a different platform. We have a golden thing, which is our audience. Our crude oil is our audience. Once we are able to learn from the likes of Google on how to use numbers to our advantage, that will begin to change our fortune. For instance, I'm thinking a very crazy thing. What's wrong with saying in a city that people love bread? Lola FM cannot team up with this bread company and say, you know what, you are selling 1,000 bread as at now every day. We're going to work with you and drive the most ambitious, massive campaign. And we guarantee you, you will start to sell 3,000 breads daily. However, for every one bread you sell above that 1,000, we're going to take 20% of that. And we work out a situation where you cannot cheat us, we will not cheat you. I mean, it's that bad and it's that desperate, and desperate times call for desperate measures. But we have got to just think while not losing focus of our fundamental job, which is catering to our audience based on what we have been licensed to do.
So basically, what you're trying to say is that we need to do more of partnerships to be able to stay in business, apart from all the other venues, streams being.
Yeah. We must be open to that.
I don't know if you all have questions for Jonathan. If you have your questions, please send them in. But one more thing I want to ask before you go, Jonathan, is this. In the course of your experience in the media, there's so much talk about this issue of sexual harassment, rape, and what have you in the society. But as a media manager, have you ever had that kind of experience, and how did you deal with it?
I would say
you must talk. Oh, you must talk.
I mean, I would first and foremost, it's very important to fully clarify that one of the most universally accepted things in the world is the fact that freedom of self-expression, you know, some of the freedoms that we have, freedom of self-expression is good. Freedom to choose is inalienable. It is God-given. I do not know everything about what prompts that, but one thing I know is it is most unacceptable. I grew up in the media house, and I grew up knowing that there would always be there are always relationships. There are people who have gotten married in the media house. I've always had, especially many years ago, there were a little bit of some hush hush, because you would agree with me that the media space today is more freer for people to self-express than it used to be back then. When I was starting out, I remember when I was called up to the controller of programs office, controller presentations, not even programs, I was shivering. Why on earth am I being called to an office this high up? Meanwhile, the controller has an assistant manager, a manager, a deputy, an assistant director, a deputy, like so many people. Now this workspace is flat. So reasonably, there's freedom, there's more information flowing, and people are able to speak up. I haven't been confronted so much with this situation in my career, but I know that the closest that I can think of, is I know we had a complaint one time in a place I worked, and the complaint was someone was showed some level of indecency in relations to a colleague, and instantly the initial investigation was conducted. That colleague was summarily dismissed, and yeah, that I can remember. I don't remember too much of that, but I remember that very much. I think we shouldn't condone it. It has no place. We are the most liberal people. Media people are the most liberal people. Currently, in one of our stations, we are running a campaign which says "No collect by force," or to collect by force, no good. We believe that, look, people have a right to their bodies, and it should be done.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm seeing so many questions here. I don't know how you're going to be tackling them, but I can tell you that Dami Dawson said, how easy or difficult is it for new media houses to properly define their styles and formats without having to to do what most popular stations in the states are doing. That means having your own niche. Yeah. Then there's another one that said, how do we get young people into the radio? That's from Nanalicious 79.
What was that? What's the other question?
How do we get young people into radio?
I'll start from that. That person asking that question is not serious. I think I know that person. That's actually my wife asking that question. She's not serious.
Madam.
but I'll start off from that so that whenever I go home I'll get food. But Dami, I'll come to your question. I believe that for us to get young people into radio, we need to have deliberate policies that is meant and targeted at trying to reach the best of young people. I think we have young people wanting to come into radio, but I think the focus should be, how do we get the best minds among young people? How do we? First off is we have to fix up our acts. Radio has got to make a lot of money, because labor is always going to be, the best labor is going to be attracted to the place that pays the best. So we've got to make money to be able to attract the best brains, instead of attracting only those like me who are hopelessly in love with it alone, or those who are stuck and cannot do any other job, and their uncles come to you and say, I have this nephew, he has a very good voice, can you or he likes to talk so much, can you employ him? So I think we need to be deliberate to do that. Then on to what Dami asked. I don't think it is difficult. It's very easy for new media houses to properly define their styles. You just need to invest in research. You need to invest in research and to know what is the missing link. It's not a hard thing to do. You are not reinventing the wheel. Human beings have so many priorities. It's not everybody who loves music, and it's also not everybody who loves talk. It's not everybody. They are just, even in music, some people love a certain kind of music. You just need to be sure that because we're in mass media, you need to be sure that in finding a niche, you are finding an interest perspective that has the commensurate number of people that are listening, that will give you the numbers you need to make money to run your business.
Wow. I think we've run out of our time. If you're going to stay here, can you hear me? If you're going to stay here, I'm not sure we are going to leave this place today. But one more thing from Vanessa Alfionte: how do freelance journalists deal with the challenges as are posed by the pandemic? How do freelance journalists, those who freelance, no salary, how do they deal with the challenges?
Quite frankly, the thing about what I say to people is, none of us has all of the answer to this pandemic. We're all trying to figure it as we go. But one of the things I can share that I've realized is the pressure on freelance journalists to have way more compelling content that will force the supplier that they supply their content to for that thing to be irresistible. The pressure is more. Then freelance journalists can also explore. My wife has been getting on my case with a few of my colleagues to do a certain podcast that she believes we should do. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to deliver on that yet. I think great people, if you are a writer, what we are seeing around the world is that writers who only used to write for the print, they are beginning to do podcasts to talk about their experiences. Because the truth is, as a journalist, once you've met and interviewed somebody, you can gather other journalists and talk about those things. If you are someone who is very passionate about, and you've interviewed so many victims of sexual harassment, you can actually do a podcast and do the same. So, it's that we just need to be open to looking at what the digital space is giving us as opportunity to make of it. I can see a question from.
Wow. Thank you very much. I believe we have to just run along. Thank you, everybody. Dami, follow Jonathan to ask this question. What is this thing with Lagos Radio and everybody wanted to come to Lagos? Please follow Mr. Jonathan. I'll ask all the questions you want, because for want of time, we will not be able to to finish all the questions I have here. I want to thank everybody that have come online to attend, to attend this session. It's been very interesting. All my bosses, I see you there. All my colleagues and my junior colleagues, I just say thank you. I can just tell you that it may not be a weekly thing, but you should expect more from us on Insights with Headliner. Thank you so much for being part of it. I'm truly very, very grateful. Jonathan, we will see after the service for item 7. And enjoy your evening. Thank you very much.
For the opportunity. Have a nice evening.
You too, my brother. Thank you.
Okay.